Hello, Humberto. Theory of constraints, as its name implies, is about constraints, capacities, bottlenecks, that sort of thing. What is less well understood because of the name is it's also a lot about managing uncertainty and variability with buffers, and that's something that comes out as very predominant and important in the world of projects with their inherent uncertainties. And then there's the other domain of the theory of constraint, which is all about the quality of thinking, clear thinking, logical thinking. How would you summarize that part?
That's a big question. Let me try to get it in an interesting and intelligible way. Well, first, the name theory of constraints. The name of theory of constraints is something that sometimes misleads people, especially because of an interpretation of theory that comes from other fields. But theory we might understand as a good description of reality, right? Usually reality is too complex for our brains to comprehend fully. So we have to summarize, we have to synthesize it into manageable bits, right? And for that you need a model. And a fancy way to name this model is theory. So the theory of constraints is basically a description of the limitations you're going to encounter in your life. And then comes a very interesting fact, which is when you look at yourself, you have a set of limitations, right? The most important one is how many hours you have in your day, and that's 24, and that's what you'll have, period. And you have other types of constraints that may come along, like resources, money, etc. And then you learn how to deal with those. So you think, oh, everything is finite, I need to be careful about how I'm using my time and how I'm using my resources. But the rules and the way you decide to do that are different when you're working alone and when you're working with others. When you start to work with others and pass work around and collaborate and synchronize your efforts with other people, then something very interesting but counterintuitive happens. The constraints starts to coalesce, and you start to have less and less points that really constrain you or the flow of work, and more protective or even excess capacity laying around, right? And you start to be kind of stressed, because in your personal life you're very conscious of wasting time and wasting resources and other things, right? But when you try to work with others, you cannot use all that time. Sometimes you're waiting for someone, sometimes someone is waiting for you, so there's always some waiting, and there's always some resources ready to do something, but they're not being activated at all times, and that generates a certain type of uncomfortableness, right? And it's hard to take all the intuition, all the experience we gather as individuals and expand them to the organization, to do complicated things like projects or supply chain management and so forth. And then what happens? You try to adjust. You try to be more on time or to more available, and things that were natural, like, oh, tasks take an unknown amount of time that may be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, but your own reactions may amplify that. And the natural variances that we encounter in life might become worsened by our attempts of imposing our individual behaviors and experiences into the collective type of effort and collective type of work. And then we end up with bigger problems, right? So how we can take what is normal, variances and unexpected things, and lessen their impact on the collective work, right? That's important because our intuitions, our instincts are not going to lead us in the right path. So we need something else, a good description of reality, maybe a theory of constraints that teaches, oh, these things are more constrained, so you should pay different attention to them. These things are less constrained, so you have to pay less attention and a different type of attention to them in order to get the whole work of the team, of the organization, of the collective done. And the rules are different. So we need something else to help us bridge what we would do as individuals as what we can and should be doing as part of a collective, right? And theory of constraints is invaluable by closing this gap or building this bridge, because it brings us to the following questions, like, if you manage things like capacity and variance, should you use the same rules everywhere or not? Where is more important to protect your system or protect the way you are delivering value through your system? Is it everywhere or is it just certain places, right? Those are crucial questions, and we don't have money, we don't have time, we don't have resources enough to protect everything all the time and to correct for everything all the time, right? So we need something to guide us to what's really making a difference and what's not going to make a difference no matter what we do. That's why we need this mental model, very aptly named the theory of constraints.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's the theory of constraints seen by Humberto Baptista, and thank you very much. Bye-bye.